made for particular causes have got several narratives. And talking about documentary film My Mercury, which premieres at the Mumbai International Film Festival and showcases the relation between the man and the nature. This film depicts the endangered seabirds and other wildlife facing threats from the seals, which can be seen as the impact of the global warming and climate change. As it is said, an ecological balance needs to be maintained, where every marine creature, whether seabirds, seals, are equally important to us. So is the real cause behind these threats to the endangered species global warming, climate change, and the man behind it? That is a big question. So come, let's take you in detailed conversation with the director and DOP of the film.
First of all, welcome to India, and with this Mumbai International Film Festival showcasing your movie as well, and especially from the conservation perspective of this, what would you like to say?
The film is about the conservation of birds, seabirds, and that the seals in this particular scenario are preventing, to a certain extent only, but are preventing the possible expansion of the seabirds' well-being, because the seals are taking over their breeding grounds and are also, thriving on eating or damaging or hunting the birds. So from the conservation point of the seals, it's more like we need to put the seals away from the seabirds at this point in the extinction scenario, because we are reaching a point where the seabirds are under so many threats from so many different things, so not just from the seals, but also from the seals. And so we have to make sure that they don't contribute to the extinction of penguins, gannets, and cormorants.
It's end of the day balancing the equation.
Yes, balancing is the equation, and realizing in a scenario that has been destroyed, where the initial, if there ever was one, but where the equilibrium was kind of taken care of by nature. Well, we're not in that place. We're in the Anthropocene, the age of the Anthropocene. What does it mean? It means that human beings have such an impact on the equilibrium of the rest of the species of the animal and bird, etc. species, that we need to be cognizant of that. We can't just say, let nature take its course, because nature is not nature anymore, and nature has been denatured. And in that scenario, the seals are part of that denaturing that is taking place, and therefore have to be kept in check so that there's still the possibility of the seabirds thriving in this particular case.
So I would like to ask you, of course, when we see from the conservation perspective, governments are doing a lot, whether it is of South Africa, whether it is of India, whether it is of around the globe. So do you think that the steps taken till now for the conservation of the wildlife, the birds, the environment are enough?
Well, I think there are too many capitalist interests that are, I mean that just in the general term, not generic term, not in terms of systems, political systems. I just mean that profit is motivating so much, and the lobbyists that are making sure that profit prevails are so strong that there can never be enough of a pushback on those kind of dynamics, because actually, we are in a situation in the Anthropocene where, here again, we are being completely, I won't say the word, but messed over by the interests of capital, basically, profit. So are they doing enough? I think we're trying hard, but there can never be enough done right now when you see what is going. Let's get back to the penguins. 10% of 100% at the beginning of the 20th century are in existence today. That is just the jackass penguin. That's one thing. I mean, the species extinction that is happening at this point, and all those curves are going, well, they're going like that, or they're going like that. You can look at it in both ways. And some people say, well, that's just how it goes. And I can't understand how they can. You have to have a geological time perspective for that, and I don't think we have the time.
My last question to you, of course, you are from the real world films. The real depicts the real. That's how we see. And now with the more modernized world, with the new technology, and of course the real is playing its real role in terms of, especially with the films working on conservation. What would you like to say on that?
No, I think that people are realizing the impact that one can have with the film, just as much as it can numb you, just as much as it can take you and distract you. It is also a medium that can be used to make people aware. If you look at My Octopus Teacher, which is a film about an octopus, what impact that has had on people's kind of just perception of the ocean, what happens in it, and the possibility of having some form of empathy for other species. That's just one example. I think there's an impact documentaries, as they call it. I don't like making something absolutely didactic. I'd rather it has a broader kind of, I don't like rah films, but there is a really space for being enlightened through film.
Especially creating an impact on the society.
Creating an impact on the society, and also creating an impact that creates a change.
And I'd like to say welcome to India first. And I would like to ask you, of course, being the DOP of the film, while shooting the film in a frame of a camera, what were the hurdles and what was the excitement in yourself, especially film related to the conservation of the seabirds?
Okay, so I think it was quite an interesting film to shoot because, with a lot of times with documentary, sometimes you don't know exactly where you're going, but as you start getting more and more towards the end of the process, putting stuff together in the edit suite and that kind of thing, you start getting a better idea of it. And it became very exciting towards the end, especially when we actually got to go to the island that we've been talking about for so many years, which took a hell of a lot of bureaucracy and boats breaking down and trips from, I suppose it's a 1,500 kilometer trip from where we are to the harbour, and then another 120 kilometers in a small little boat up to the island, and then having these sort of situations where we sometimes couldn't land, and then finally getting there, and it was just incredible. Everywhere you looked, you just point your camera and you just can't help but making beautiful images. So
are you satisfied with the overall performance of the film?
Yes, I am. I mean, there's quite a few, technically there's quite a few different stages of, I suppose you could call film technology in it. So it starts with a high 8 thing, which is on tape. There's a Betacam footage when the director's then husband went and shot. That was in the mid-90s, I think. And then towards the 2015-14, we went up to where the main protagonist of the film, Yves, his home is, where he's working on a bird island now, and shot there for quite a bit. And then finally we went to the islands where it was 4K digital technology, where
it is always wonderful talking to people like you who are from a creative background. My last question to you, of course, I'll bring you towards the Mumbai International Film Festival, organizing and giving a platform to global documentary makers. So what would you like to say to the Government of India initiative?
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. First of all, I mean, it's my first time in India, and I've just loved every single second that I've been here. I mean, obviously I don't have to say anything about the food. You know how good your food is. But just the people have been amazing. The organization of the festival has been incredible. The opening was incredible. And we're just having such a fine time here. We hope that people will come and see our film, because it is, I think, a film that can actually change people's ideas about how things can happen, and I think, changes we can make in this world of ours. But otherwise, a completely fabulous experience that we've had so far, and I'm sure we're going to continue to have, just judging by, what's happened so far.
Thank you and namaskar.